So this person had referenced Venus and Serena all week long. So then he referenced it again when we we're prepping for the final exam, and I said to him, I have a question. Did you coach like Venus and Serena? He's like, yeah, yeah. When Venus won Wimbledon, when she was at the trophy ceremony, she thanked me. I'm like, oh, okay. So what did like Serena do then? To win, or Venus? And, he's like, well, we just told her to hit side to side. And so I'm like, that's it? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, this is really important. Like this exam, we have to pass this. I don't think it's gonna work. We just tell everybody you got to hit left and then right and then left. So it's kind of like you said, Sky. The strategy gets more simplistic as you become a better player. So he calls. So his name is Jermaine. So he calls Richard Williams, gets Richard on the phone, brings the phone over to me. And he's like, Richard, here's Angelo. Can you tell him about the side to side? And so I asked him, I was like, well, is it true that you told Serena to hit side to side? He's like, yes, sir. I was like, why? That seems pretty big. He goes, exactly. Serena got so paralyzed emotionally. She was so emotional, especially before finals, that we said, you know what, Serena? Hit ball to the left. Then when you get it back, hit it to the right. And then when you get it back, hit it to the left. Keep doing that until you win the point. And so if you watch, in the middle of Serena's career, she hit everything left, right, left, right, left, right. But at that point, she was so powerful that she could hit the ball, like you said, take time away more powerfully corner to corner, that she had to just hit 3 corners and she won the point.
Right.
Then as she matured and was toward the twilight of her career, notice how she did re-hits. She hit left, right, and then right again, because she hit behind players because she realized that she wasn't overpowering them like she used to. So it was fascinating. So then after getting off the call, I hang up the phone, and I was the leader of the group, and I go, all right, guys, scrap all of what I said. We're going to tell everybody to hit it left and then right, left again. We're going to hit side to side, but we're going to call it the Serena side to side, and we all passed the exam. It was just hilarious.
Wow, that is
absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
A key component.
True story.
That's amazing. A key component in there that I want to highlight that you both commented on, a couple things. One, I resonate so heavily with that emotional paralysis, and I think every athlete does, right? There's moments where you're behind, you're getting your ass kicked, the nerves kick in even more. You're saying it's excitement, you're trying to convince yourself it's excitement, but you're nervous, right? So to Angelo's point in that, it's like simplify everything. Simplify the entire game. Just focus on yourself. Hit your shots. Get yourself back in there. Settle back in, and then continue forward more tactically. Because I've been there where, especially in my first couple of qualifiers, your nerves are high. You feel like everything's on the line. You've been working toward this forever. You finally have an opportunity, and now you don't want to squander it. But in that emotional state, you feel like you can't even think. You feel like you everything that you just knew flew out the window.
Yeah.
Right? So the best advice that I can give that Angelo commented on is keep it as simple as possible until you settle into the game and then think more tactically. Now, also building on that with what Sky said, and then Sky, I know you have something to say, so I'll let you comment.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
When you are early on your journey, and this is where my skill set had to catch up to where I was of way that I thought about the game, because I've just watched so many hours of pickleball and studied the game tactically heavily. But early on, if you get too lost in focusing on your opponents on the other side of the court, you're never getting those reps and building that skill set to actually hit the shot, right? So you do need to employ yourself to go out there and focus on yourself first early in your career, whether it is 2-5, 3-0, even honestly to 4-0, close to 4-5. Like You're focusing on hitting your shots, regardless of if the opponent is there or not. Hit your damn shots.
Mhm.
Then now at the 5-0 level, now I'm looking on the other side of the court.
Yes.
Now I'm saying, what are their tendencies? What may their weaknesses be? What is even their paddle position? Where are they off balance on the court? Where can I catch them a little bit off balance? So now the chance that they hit a good shot back is low. So that all happens now after the fact of I know I could hit most shots. There's a couple shots that I may only hit 5 out of 10 times, but I'm leaning on most of the shots that I get 8 out of 10 in any position on the court. Now I can focus tactically on the other side. So that is probably some of the best advice that I've gotten as a player as I've climbed through the ranks. And I thought that was a key component that Sky said, and Angelo commented on that. Every single player needs to take through their journey is focus on hitting your shot first, then focus on the opponents on the other side of the court, which is huge.
Yeah, and I think going back to a little bit of what you guys said about flow.
Yeah.
In my book Art of War, Art of Tennis, I talk about how a player's strategic aspect and mental aspect has to be like water, because water could evaporate and become, evaporated in the air. You could become a flow of water, and then you could become ice. So you have to be. Sun Tzu talked about this. How strategic you have to be, very in flow of different adaptation to the environment and your opponents. So I love how Angelo said that, and I think also talking about the focusing on yourself and focusing on your opponent later. What I talked about in my YouTube channel is every person has a mental capacity, I believe. So when
I agree
you,
with that.
yeah, so mental capacity, when you have that mental capacity, and the first couple of years, you have to fill that mental capacity with you in that, thinking about yourself. So, but the thing is, as you go, you take some of that out and put strategic aspect into that mental capacity. And the thing is, like, the reason why you practice and do reps and repetitions is because you want that mental capacity to uh, be dumped out. You don't want to be thinking about, technique in your in mentality. So you fill those gaps, like, because sometimes I had players where they're developing so fast and they were thinking about themselves, but it was all full, and they didn't, they
Hmm.
didn't know what to do. And sometimes it was the opposite. They did enough repetitions, they didn't even know what to think about now, because everything was so natural. Now then I took, the strategic aspect of it and put, you know strategy and tactics into his mental capacity, and now he has that, he could go back and forth with, mental capacity could go back and forth from strategy or technique. And that also is a flow. It's not always solid. You're not always thinking about strategy, you're not always thinking about yourself. It always has the flow of what you need. So I go with my players and really deep dive into what they need and analyze themselves, to be able to analyze themselves. And the tennis players and pickleball is the same way. It's, you have to be able to do that yourself, because the coach can't coach you. So I don't know about pickleball, but for tennis, you have to coach yourself and be your own coach, and you really have to be able to analyze yourself, what to think about. Is it me, or right now, to dominate or compete, do I have to really think about me or my opponent? Like, they have to keep changing that flow. Uh, yeah.
Completely agree.
Well, and I and
Um,
I I agree with that. I just want to add, Al and Sky, that you know your coach's voice, which is external when you first hear it, becomes their internal voice,
Right.
right? And a lot of players have said to me, I had you in my head when I was playing this match or this tournament.
Hmm.
And I agree with that to a certain extent, but the coach can't be the crutch.
Right.
So I would love to coach my player to coach him or herself,
Yes, that's the
because
goal.
they're the only person that's going to be present in every single one of their matches, tournaments, and practices. So I say, yeah, okay, temporarily you can hear my voice in your head, but eventually you got to make it your own voice
Hmm.
in your.
Yeah, and I talk about with my players, they always I think the first couple of years of my career, I had a tough time uh, with my players because they would all rely on me, and I was really thinking, hey, this is great for my survival and my job, but like that's not the goal. And I started telling my players the goal is to play well without me, not me not being there. So when I'm teaching you, you have to teach yourself how to adjust and how to teach yourself in certain positions. With me coaching you and giving you all this experience and guiding you, you have to be able to do that without me. The goal is to play well without me and not with me. So I keep on trying to uh, not distance myself. I give them space so that they, when it's time, they could actually separate from me, and they're very independent players, and they don't rely on me as a player. So that's also what I try to do as a coach as well. Yeah.
And I totally on the same page. And I
Um,
just love that. I love that. There's a junior, aspiring junior player. I was his mental skills coach, and one of the reasons I was brought on board was he could never win a tie break. Whenever it got to a third set tie break or even a first set or second set, he would lose. So you have the in between sets, you have that 3 minute coaching time, and he would call me. His parents would call me. Are you going to be available in 10 minutes? I said, why? Well, because it looks like he's going to be losing the second set. And so, believe it or not, we went 10 for 10. 10 times that he got me on the phone. He went 10 for 10 in tie breaks. So he won 10 third set tie breaks. The 11th, I was in the shower and I didn't get to my phone in time, and he lost. And it's
Oh no.
guy exactly what you were saying, because I get out of the shower, I see like 6 missed calls. I'm like, what's going on? And but that's the thing. I felt really badly. I'm like, I wasn't there for him. And then I said, no, but I can't be a crutch. At some point, it's got to transition to that you're making the decision, you're making the call. And the thing I do with my players there, Sky and Al, is what I say is, okay, if I'm not reachable, or even if eventually I am, then why don't you do this? Do a role play. Ask yourself the question and then answer the question how you think your coach would answer it.
Yes.
And then you're actually finding the answer, searching for the answer, and coming up with the answer yourself. Now you're owning the process of being the player and the coach. And I really believe that the player coach is the best player in the world. Yes, you still need coaches. I'm not saying you don't need coaches, but you need coaches to a certain extent. And then at that point, you got to be able to do it. And then I would say once the coach gets the player to that point, then you can coach on other things.
Hmm.
You can coach on purpose and how you're going
Right.
to leave a legacy in the sport. That's what the coach can help you with.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, and it's not about just coaching and winning on the court, but I think the coach has a lot of say because you gain trust. And I really believe that the coach should be a friend, family, and sometimes a father figure or whatever you need to be actually. But the thing is, like, they're teachers. They're not just coaches, but they teach life as well. So I always talk about to my fellow coaches and younger coaches that are younger than me. They always wanted some mentorship, and I talk about how uh, you know you have to be a certain role model, and not just you have to not be perfect, but you have to be a good person. You have to be have be passionate, have compassion, like all this stuff, like not just tennis and not just sports, but you have to be shaping that player not only in tennis but to be a good person as well, I think. And I think and that does really well, I think, in media as well, like because when you want sponsorships, you want someone that can represent your brand, right? And I think that's also very important, because financially, if you don't have that support, then it's very hard for you to go out there and play, unless you're like top, top in the world. But still, you still need to be um a good person, I believe. Yeah.